Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Maria Parham, editorial page editor for the Arizona Daily Star. Tonight on AZ Illustrated Metro, we'll find out how state budget cuts have affected women in Arizona. We'll also look at Common Core, the new education standards Arizona is implementing. At the same time, state lawmakers are voting to abandon them. Then we'll ask how proposed federal budget cuts impact Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Finally, we'll go to the airplane Boneyard on the base for an unusual event held there last weekend. But first, a look at today's top stories.
One day after they gave the bill preliminary approval, the Arizona Senate this afternoon voted down a bill prohibiting the state from using the Common Core education standards. 18 of the Senate's 30 members voted against the bill. It was sponsored by Southern Arizona Senator Al Melvin. State Senate President Andy Biggs spoke in favor of the proposal before the Senate failed the bill. Later in tonight's show, we will explore the Common Core education standards and the potential challenges Arizona schools faced if the implementation of those standards was halted. A poll released this week shows a close race between Republicans running for governor. Public Policy Polling conducted the poll last weekend and asked voters whether they have a positive or negative opinion of each of the Republican candidates. Voters had the most name recognition of Republican candidates Ken Bennett, the current Secretary of State, Doug Ducey, the state treasurer, and Andrew Thomas, a former candidate for state attorney general. The poll also showed Governor Jan Brewer's approval rating is at about 44% and hasn't changed since Public Policy Polling last asked Arizonans to rate her job performance in October. And Arizona game and fish officials say 2 more bighorns have died in the Catalina Mountains, bringing the total deaths to 15. At least one of those bighorns was killed by a mountain lion. And that's a look at tonight's headlines.
A study released today analyzes funding in the state that helps women become self-sufficient. The Grand Canyon Institute did the study. And joining me to discuss the results is George Cunningham, chairman of the Institute. Also in the studio to talk about what the findings mean is Laura Penning, executive director of the Women's Foundation of Southern Arizona. Laura and George, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
George, could you start by really giving us an overview of the findings and some of the cuts that you've found that are hurting women in the state?
Well, the crux of this study identifies actions that the state has taken over the past several years that have either hindered or prevented women from achieving self-sufficiency. There are a number of programs, 17 to be exact, number of programs that have either been completely eliminated or they've been substantially reduced in terms of funding that have created this impediment. There are also, this affects approximately 1 million women across the state. And depending upon how you count your poverty level, it could be a much larger number because it's 1 million women, but they have families.
Exactly.
Some of the ones that have, some of the areas where the cuts have occurred is in child care subsidies. Those were completely eliminated. There was previously almost $200 million available for child care subsidies. In addition to that, there were certain programs within that provided health care for low and moderate income women that were eliminated. In addition, there was a reduction in early childhood education funding. So those types of programs actually empower women to become self-sufficient. And the state has gone in an opposite direction that it should have in order to achieve self-sufficiency for women.
So that's really the bottom line of what the study found, is that it's hindering women from becoming more self-sufficient then.
That's correct.
Laura, George has mentioned a couple of examples like childcare, but can you give us some real details of what that means? We say childcare funding or we say education funding, but give us some examples of what that really means.
Well, you know, it's hard enough to raise a family and work. And so I guess my question is, why are we making it harder for families to do that? We have cut what we formerly knew as welfare to a 2-year program. So we tell families that we'll help you out if you get in a bind for 2 years. But after 2 years, you have to be back in the workforce and supporting your family. Great. Who's going to look after the children at that point? Because typically folks don't come off of those public programs and move right into the executive suite making 6 figures a year. So, you know, I think we haven't been really thoughtful about our policies. And, you know, this is really Economic Development 101. It's, you know, I don't think we should look at it as benefits, but I think we should look at it as an investment.
For example, describe a woman going out and getting into the workforce at a minimum wage or at least a low wage job who's trying to provide childcare. What's she faced with? What kind of economics is that? How much would childcare cost her if the subsidies have gone away?
You know, this report follows on to some research we did a couple years ago in which we found that for a single parent family with a school-age child and a preschooler, it can be over $1,000 a month just for childcare. Well, that's comparable to tuition at the University of Arizona. We have people paying more for childcare than they do for rent. Having children has a huge impact on people's self-sufficiency.
So many states have cut back over the last few years on the programs they're offering, but once the economy turned around, then they started restoring some of these programs. That hasn't happened in Arizona. George, give us some insight on what's going on with that. The
Grand Canyon Institute believes that if you're going to affect some sort of policy change, or in this case, increased investments that will promote self-sufficiency amongst women. You need to first start with a factually based research that will establish definitively that if you make these investments, it will result in not only the advancement of the family itself that is affected, but also there will be implications for the entire economy, and you will affect economic growth.
So if there is an impact on the entire economy, then where should this money be coming from to help drive the economy and get these people out?
I think we believe that the study will be persuasive in convincing many legislators that restoring investments that were there in the past, restoring funding that was there in the past with regard to child care and early childhood education and health care, and education generally, that if those investments are made, there will be a return on investment to the state. And that unless you have an intellectual foundation and a basis by which to make your arguments through a return on investment, it's very difficult to get policy change. And that's what we believe we've done. We can show, because studies across the nation show that with early childhood education, the return on investment is in the neighborhood of 11 to 1, which is what our report verified.
Laura and George, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Arizona is one of 45 states that helped develop and is now implementing new education standards called Common Core. The state Senate has tentatively passed a bill preventing schools from using those new standards. Joining us in the studio now to talk about this is William McCallum, a University of Arizona math professor. Bill, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me here.
Start out by telling us what your role has been in Common Core, because it's been very significant.
Sure. In 2009, there were two organizations of states, the National Governors Association and the Council of Chief State School Officers, who decided to get together and develop common standards, and they asked me to lead the work team to develop the math standards. There were about 80 people all told. Got together, spent a year working on the standards, sending them out for review by the states. Arizona played a big role in that review, by the way. Arizona had members from the State Department of Education on the committee. There was an Arizona Teacher of the Year who was on the validation committee. They did a lot of reviewing of the standards, weekend get-togethers of teachers. Standards were put out for public review early in 2009 and were finished in summer of 2009.
So what you're saying is the state has really bought into this. And is this something that's been mandated by the federal government?
Not at all. This was a voluntary effort by the states. The states who adopted the standards in the end, 45, which I have to say was an amazing number, adopted the standards because they thought they were good. They just used the same procedure states always use to adopt standards. Arizona's had standards for years. It just adopted these ones.
So now that there's some controversy going on about implementing it, the teachers have been teaching all this year according to Common Core, or when did they start exactly?
Implementation started, it's not completed. The assessments will be implemented next year. A lot of work has been put into professional development of teachers. Teachers have been working hard to implement these standards. They're higher than the standards Arizona had before. They prepare students for college and career. Mostly the teachers I talk to are really excited about them.
So what happens now for the teachers and the students if it is abandoned at this point in the game?
I think it would be a disaster. I hope that this goes away. This is a national political effort to disrupt what is really a locally grown movement. Arizona, by the way, had a big role in these standards, and their fingerprints are all over them. So I don't know why the legislators didn't listen to the people in Arizona who worked on them. Not just me, but all the other people on the work team.
So what's the alternative to Common Core if we do end up not being able to use it in the state? Where would we go back to?
I suppose we could go back to the previous state standards, and I would say that that's a decision that should be conducted the way decisions like this are conducted, with the State Board of Education, the Department of Education, the experts making a considered decision. It was voluntary to adopt. It's voluntary to unadopt. I think that Arizona parents and children deserve better leadership on this issue than they're getting from the legislature.
So as an educator and somebody who's been really invested in Common Core, can you tell us what your perspective is on what the state should be doing? You've just mentioned that parents need to get behind this, educators need to get behind it.
There's a lot of work to be done. So these are only standards. They're not curriculum. They're not telling teachers what to do day to day in the classroom. They're not assessment. They're simply statements of what we want kids to know and be able to do at the end of each grade level. For example, the standards say that kids should be able to add fractions by the end of grade 4. If we unadopt the standards, does that mean they don't have to add fractions by the end of grade 4? What are we going to do? Put it grade 3, grade 5, just for the sake of being different? So the standards are expectations. Implementing those expectations is the work of teachers. Finding out whether our investments in education are paying off is the work of assessments. There's lots of work to be done, and I think Arizona should be investing. They've got good standards. They've got standards that prepare children for college and career. They've got standards that are aligned with international standards. They've got good standards that are shared with other states, so they can share across state lines tools of how to implement standards. I think they should be getting down to the work of helping the children of Arizona learn.
So also this would really put us in a bind as far as the testing is concerned if this were to be abandoned, because the schools have been working on having some sort of new testing mechanism that's really tied to graduation.
That's right, and I guess if we had different standards, we'd have to have different assessments, and that would cost money to produce those assessments. There's a lot of work to be done when you change standards. That's why states mostly do it every 4 or 5 years. It's a big deal.
And so why does it matter that it's a national effort and that the states would have the same standards?
It helps a lot. Even if you never move from state to state, You still are helped when you have coherent standards, because that results in coherent textbooks. For years, people have criticized the American curriculum as a mile wide and an inch deep. And that's because textbook companies are trying to satisfy 50 different sets of state standards. When you have common standards, you can have coherent, focused, and rigorous textbooks, and you can get on with the business of teaching mathematics and not dealing with all of these political craziness.
So it could be a money-saving thing, perhaps, as well, that if there's only one set of textbooks that have to be issued, that would be helpful?
Well, I'm sure there will still be competition for textbooks. There'll be different people with different implementations of the standards, but they'll all be working from the same standards. So those textbooks, if they're faithful to the standards, will be coherent, focused. Mathematics will make sense to kids. It'll prepare them for college and career.
Bill McCallum, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Gwen Eiffel on the next News Hour, the second of Miles O'Brien's reports on the aftermath of Fukushima and how the meltdown is still affecting fish in nearby waters. That's Wednesday on the PBS News Hour.
California is trying to enroll more Latinos in health insurance, but there have been some stumbles, like emphasizing a website instead of personal service.
Hispanics will wait to go to a 7-Eleven until 11 o'clock because at 11 o'clock they know that Juan is on duty.
I'm David Green, selling healthcare in Spanish on the next Morning Edition from NPR News.
The president sent his budget proposal to the U.S. Congress yesterday. Now the members begin debating the spendings and political priorities. One of the proposals is to eliminate the A-10 aircraft from the Defense Department budget. Joining me in the studio to talk about the potential impact on Tucson is Arizona Public Media's Christopher Conover. Christopher, good to have you in the studio today.
Thanks for having me in.
First of all, describe the proposal. We've been talking about the A-10 and its possible elimination for a long time, but this one sounds pretty serious.
We have been. The Defense Department actually tried this last year, and Congress did not go along. This is the Defense Department, the president's budget, if you will, and Congress will make their own budget and use some of the things in the president's budget and use some of their own things. And last year they didn't go along with it. This year, we'll have to see. Our local congressman, Ron Barber, is working to keep it in the budget, as are other members of Congress who have A-10s based in their districts also. It's of particular interest to Tucson, though, because Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, which has been here for so many decades, that's the main plane flown out of there. Everybody in Tucson knows the A-10 because it's in the sky all the time. There are about 80 of those that are housed or based at DM. So if those were to suddenly go away, that would have a huge impact on the base.
Before we go into so much of the impact, can you tell us why they want to do this?
The A-10 is an old airplane. Everybody admits that. Most of the A-10s out even at DM were built no later than the 80s. These are old airplanes, but they've been refurbished in recent years. The Defense Department has spent a lot of money, but the Defense Department, the Air Force says, we just don't need these planes anymore. Its mission, they say, is just, it's out of date. Now, Congressman Barber and others trying to save the A-10 say it still has a very important mission. That's what's called close air support for troops on the ground. The A-10 flies much slower. It's not supersonic. It can fly very low. It's heavily armored on the bottom to protect the pilot. So when ground troops get in trouble, the A-10 can come in and help them out and hopefully bail them out of trouble as needed.
So what makes this time different, do we think, than the others? It seems like I'm just getting the feeling that there's really some fear in the air this time, that maybe this is it.
This is the second time around for it, first of all, which once, okay, it gets beaten back, politically it goes away. Twice, now it's come back again, so there's more movement on it. Language was put in the defense spending bill that the president signed right before Christmas that said the Air Force, the Defense Department couldn't even think about spending money to get rid of the A-10 in calendar 2014, which of course bridges fiscal years. Now they're thinking about it again anyway, so it seems they really are interested in getting rid of it this time. So it's going to be a big fight.
So you started to mention the impact on the community earlier. Talk to us about the dollars and cents of what would happen if the A-10s went away from Davis-Monthan.
Davis-Monthan is one of the big three economic contributors to Tucson. It's Davis-Monthan, the University of Arizona, and Raytheon are our big three economic drivers here. If you were to close Davis-Monthan, and no one has proposed closing Davis-Monthan at this point, but certainly if its main mission went away, an argument could be made. It would have a huge impact. Davis-Monthan does studies every year on the economic impact, and it's thousands of jobs and millions of dollars that come into Tucson and the surrounding communities because of the base. What is also of interest is in the Defense Department budget that just went to the Congress, they mentioned starting to scale back some of the C-130s, an unspecified number. The C-130 is the big cargo plane that we see come in and out of Davis-Monthan all the time. They increased some funding for certain C-130 projects, but they're going to decrease others. We don't know if that would even affect Davis-Monthan, but it certainly is something to keep an eye on.
You talked about Congressman Ron Barber being at the forefront of trying to save this. Are there some other groups in town or nationally that want the A-10 saved?
The DM-50, which is, for lack of a better term, Davis-Monthan's community relations group. They are a group of civilians that help support the base and help base officials interact with the community and vice versa. They very much want to keep the A-10s around because that is the heart and soul of the base right now. So they are very interested, as are local leaders.
Can you tell us what other local impacts there might be? Because it's what happens at Davis-Monthan affects so many other businesses in town.
Absolutely. Davis-Monthan, when it was first built, obviously was on the edge of town. Now it's almost in the middle of town. There's a lot of housing. Certainly Davis-Monthan has its own housing, but a lot of pilots and airmen and women who work on base don't live on base. They live in surrounding areas. I have friends who live up in Marana who work on base. We all know people who work on the base. So you're going to have some housing issues. All those businesses right around the base. Try and go get lunch near Davis-Monthan in the middle of the week, and of course all those restaurants are full of the men and women who work there.
Thanks, Christopher, for being in the studio today. One of the facilities at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base is the 309th Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group. It is more commonly known as the Boneyard. Other than active Air Force fleets, it is the largest military aircraft storage site in the world. Normally, it's only open to authorized Air Force employees and the occasional tour bus, but last weekend, the 2,600-acre facility hosted a fitness event. Producer Andrea Kelly takes us inside the gates on foot with the participants.
So this race is really fun. We started at the start line, of course, then we ran down the first road, and along there you had C-130s, and then also you had all the engines. Then we ran along their road that they call their Heritage Road, which has all the planes that they've had in the past in the Air Force. Then we just did the loop around. It was really fun.
You're doing great, guys. Keep it up.
As the commander, I'm responsible for the entire operation out here, an operation that contains 4,000 airplanes, 7,000 engines valued at $34 billion to make sure that we store them, preserve them, regenerate, reclaim parts, all for the Department of Defense and all federal agencies in the United States government.
Usually when I do a race, it's either like on roads. I've never actually run through like a boneyard before like this. It's really cool. I finished first place. Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time just looking at the airplanes, especially on their Heritage Row. I just stopped about every other plane and took a picture really fast and kept on running.
Several things can happen to an aircraft when it arrives, depending on what the future predicted use is. The first, we normally will store and preserve an airplane if we think we're going to use it for some other purpose. The two biggest purposes are to regenerate it. We'll take the airplane, we'll make it back to flyable status. We do that about 100 airplanes every year, return them back to flyable status, and most of those we sell to our allies so that they have military capabilities to support themselves and allies around the world. So the second major use is to reclaim parts. Those parts are used to keep aircraft around the world flying. So it's direct warfighter support, and it keeps the operation moving for the entire Department of Defense each and every day.
My impressions were this was amazing. I really want to do it again. I should have done the 10K.
Let's go, let's go! That's what I'm talking about.
My husband is Trey Rawls. He's the Vice Wing Commander for the 355th Fighter Wing. When we were running through the Boneyard, I think part of it, what sticks out as you're running down the various aisleways is just the history, the years and years of history that you're running through, taking you back in time and going forward, and just how really cool and awesome that is to get to be a part of something like that. And imagine all the stories. I kept thinking, if these airplanes could talk, what stories could they tell? I wish they'd let me come out here and do this, you know, in the middle of the week.
This is the second annual run we've done, and our purpose in doing it is because a lot of people know about the Boneyard, very few people understand the Boneyard. And so what we wanted to do was give people an opportunity to come out and walk through and see some of the absolute vast national treasures that are here, while at the same time giving me just a couple of minutes to educate the local population a little bit about the different things that happen here. Most people hear the term Boneyard and they think all that happens is airplanes come here and die. But so much more than that happens every day. 4,000 airplanes, regenerate 100, save $500 million, and support
It was definitely interesting. Like I said, definitely for next year, I'll just do the 10K for next year for sure. There was a couple of times that I actually stopped and kind of look around at the Air Force, the airplanes, and it's really, really cool. Really cool airplanes.
I already knew a lot about airplanes, like during Heritage flight, which is going on with the F-22 right there. I'll usually sit at my house with a pair of binoculars and watch them fly. Wow. That's amazing. In this next coming weeks, I need to start my application process for applying to the Air Force Academy, and I'd really love to go there for college.
That's our show. To keep up with the latest news and watch the segments from this and other editions of AZ Illustrated, go to our website, news.azpm.org. I'm Maria Parham. Thanks for watching.